March 21st, 2022. I'm watching See the BS this morning, and there's a gentleman on, he has some foreign ministry position. I have no idea how you even get to that level of what sounds important. But he's talking about blocking. It's almost like when I had on the wall, when I was in that phase of research and whatever, doing my time dysplasia, and how time and space works for me at the moment where I'm at in my documenting just how disgusting this corrupt system is planetary wise. It's a corrupt planetary system. The way that this guy speaks on this one piece, it's like one post-it note in the colorful display that I had that goes on in like a talking head about one piece, but there are other post-it notes that are talking at the same time. Again, there has to be some kind of normally there's some kind of a feedback loop when you're diagnosing something, when there's a problem with the functionality of something. So I look at him in his very candid effort of trying to explain what they're doing, trying to work with the tech leaders to block Russia's social media. I don't know, again, incoming feedback loop of a response on this. I don't really have an opinion on this. But it goes back to the fact of I think that the time wasted giving the celebrities these things. I mean, again, I know that they discuss less than important issues through the voices of the less than important puppets that they pay off, and they call themselves celebrities. They give them awards. They have some kind of lifestyle. They live way above the mean and the average. I'm not one of them. But again, it's like left behind or abandonment on the field. That's what it feels like. I mean, I'm trainer pilot for breeder program. I don't understand, for alien breeder program. I don't understand how this future was ever put into design or into action or motion to pull into this nothingness, like non-essential equipment. I'm just like, I feel like a trucker feedback, about after a ride. It was a truck on a road. It's not really that important. Nothing happened. Nothing significant in the field of view. I mean, if I go looking for field of view outside, there was significance, but other people knew about it, so why didn't they fix it along the way? Talk about wasting everyone's time just to get to a more dangerous position. That was really stupid.
Of Russia's resources, they've been very effective. More than 400 companies have stopped doing business in Russia since its troops invaded Ukraine nearly a month ago. And Ukrainian leaders are now also pressing major tech companies to block services in Russia and to create a so-called digital blockade. Apple, Google, and Microsoft have already done that. Joining us now from inside Ukraine is that country's Deputy Minister of Digital Transformation.
It's like failed strategy, failed strategy, failed strategy, failed strategy everywhere I look. And then it's like, okay, what's the Band-Aid for the failed strategy? Oh, there we are. Google, Microsoft, Apple. Great, okay. I mean, like, is there anything worth living for in life? Seriously. I mean, I don't even want to look in the mirror. I really don't want to be on film. I really don't like what genetically I've been hit with. I started out just fine. I was happy. I liked my little extremities. I moved throughout the environment all right. Then all of a sudden, sometimes after school started in Bayside, the legs would get heavy, the gravity would be off. I was skinny as a rail. I was the way that I was supposed to be in bone density and muscle thickness with no fat. And then but then the heavy legs started coming, the shortness of breath when I was like 5 in the same area. So now I don't understand why there's like this hyper local gravitational problem. The moon also disappeared. That doesn't happen in most places in the planetary system. Not that humans even would notice, but whatever.
Alex Bornyakov. Mr. Deputy Minister, good morning to you. Before we get to what many people are calling a new way of war.
And then he talks something about a telegram. I don't even know what that is. Is that like the Morse code thing that they used to talk about in like wars past?
I want to ask about you personally. We're not saying where you are for your own safety. What is your life like these days? How are you sleeping? Just tell us about the conditions you're living through right now.
Well, hi everyone. So yeah, when it all started, I was in Kiev, and I woke up from explosions. It was like 6 a.m. And I spent 2 days in Kiev, and it was horrible. There was airstrikes, explosions, jets are flying, and we managed to evacuate.
So now his function is something called a Deputy Minister of Digital Transformation.
Evacuated because it was impossible to work, but we had to restore the work of the ministry in order to deliver services to people and do what we do right now, which you call digital blockade, and we call this digital diplomacy. I'm still in Ukraine.
Digital diplomacy. That's interesting.
And pretty much far.
He, though, has some, like, I just do this and then throw it up on my YouTube account because I have nobody to socially interact with. He apparently goes on to say that they're on Zoom calls and all this other stuff all day long. Nobody pulls me into anything or even alerts me that these things are available, so I don't know how to participate.
Far of their actual war zone, but still, even where I am, there are sirens and the threat of airstrikes still. So from time to time, we have to go to shelter. But so far, I'm good.
Are you concerned about being personally targeted because of what you're doing?
Well, of course. And today's night, my Telegram account was people wanted to compromise my account, and I think that's what they're trying to do in the first place, to figure out where we are and what we're talking about and what our plans are.
So, Mr. Deputy Minister, about that new method of war, is kind of, you call it diplomacy, other people call it a kind of digital warfare. You're using a mix of social media pressure campaigns and digital currency, cryptocurrency, to create pressure on companies to get out of Russia, create this blockade, and also bring in funds. Tell us about this digital future when it comes to warfare. How is it working? How'd you come up with it? The whole story.
Well, it started all from the fact that we realized that we can't stop this Russian war machine because it's so much, it's so big, it's so many troops. So we decided to fight on the economic and the digital front, because we believe that if we stop taxpayers paying money to government, which they spend not to develop their infrastructure, not to build schools, not to build hospitals, not to build roads, but they use this money to invade their neighbors, to threat all the European countries in the world. So we have to stop.
You know, interestingly enough, I'm at a different level in a different area of zoning and mapping and districting. I'm up to a faceless enemy who just tracks you and traps you like an animal and then bombards you with physical degradation and pain from invisible source elsewhere, like just on a keyboard, changing the magnetics of the room, and all of a sudden the electric no longer stays in the wall. It causes static shocks. It causes pain in the joints. It's an arithmetic, like arthritic pain. Or it's a calculus and a calcaneus pain, which seem to go hand in hand. So now I haven't fueled that machine. I had no intentions of fueling that machine, but yet some coward somewhere built that machine and is allowing it to harm me. How and where do I go to protect myself from that form of enemy? I'm just curious in activism.
Stop money flows to Russia. And this was the vision that came up to Nicole further during the first day. So we formed a group of people that started immediately to act. Maybe you're not aware, but Twitter is not popular in Ukraine. But we realized that it's...
I would have no idea. How do you even find that level of research out? Like, who publishes that? Where do you, I mean, like, there's no office building I can walk into and get a national security update. Nowhere. NYPD doesn't offer it, but again, they're housing half the world's enemy population inside their organization of organized criminals. Just saying, that's what it looks like. I mean, they have a different function. They've got law enforcement and to keep the enemy out of my area. That's the way I look at it. But their employment stuff is just as dirty as the hospitals. You're not supposed to mix blood. You're not supposed to be able to, take each other's blood. And you're definitely not supposed to be data banking each other's blood for research purposes. That's how you get designer diseases. And bioterrorism goes from a quiet, unknown crime that someone's working to quell to like gigantic, widespread genocide. So I don't understand why time is a factor humans think that they deserve to like think on it or sleep on it. I think they've been doing a whole lot of sleeping, not a whole lot of what needs to be done.
It's pretty much popular in the States. So we decided to appeal to the governments, to private companies, and specifically to digital ones, because we are, you can find more expertise than in digital administration.
I mean, if you think about it, just so a couple of people could have these big CEO positions at sports arena, they're not worth it. So a couple of people could have big CEO positions at tech companies, they're not worth it. I mean, why do you keep building systems that are going to melt down and cause such severe outages and pain throughout the world? I don't understand when that's the known outcome based on empirical and statistical data that's already known prior to even my arrival on the scene. Why is it that the greatest strategists in the world are incapable of doing their job properly and stopping this level of terrorism before it even has a chance to begin?
Digital transformation in Ukraine in terms of working with their tech giants. And so we started to talk to them and showing them this is not just because they invaded Ukraine. They possess threat to the whole Europe today. And how it works, so we basically trying to establish personal contacts with their, and using of course the context that we already had before to show the real situation in Ukraine, what's going on, and share our vision through email, through phone calls, through social media, and we're doing this on the instant basis, like in Zoom conversations, in email chains, using introductions.
Deputy Minister, as Tony mentioned earlier, more than 400 businesses have already announced their withdrawal from Russia. So what is your message to businesses and tech companies that are still doing business in or with Russia?
Our message is that those money that you pay to Russian government, they spend to kill civilian people, to fund the war machine, to fund their propaganda machine, and they use this government money not for the good of Russian people. They use it for aggression.
Yeah, again, calling the kettle black, but whatever. Yesterday I had mentioned and I had shown, I mean, he looks a little basketball color like, I don't know if it's his liver function, I don't know if it's makeup, I'm not quite sure. But there is a very specific New York, there's several multinational New York visualizations here that have taken over the GAS, the gas, stations and retail business. Like they're in receivership of the truck loads of gas, which is a problem. I don't know how livery comes into that. And that would be interesting. They use the word liver. When your liver function turns yellow or orange, it's usually a problem. But that ties into bioterrorism and the skins on the field, the pig skins in pigment on the field. And then they were also in a much darker shade, the first to open up mass telecommunications, where they wanted contracts for numerical exchange so you could have some form of portable telecommunication. Why was this ever allowed? That's national security. Why was national security teams in the USA, in the United States of America, being the us, I'm asking MEUCO elsewhere, why was this allowed in the garden of Mount Rushmore children with national security? They have administrative and executive function to protect the president as whatever. I'm just curious, and their own genetics, I'm just curious how and why this level of business was allowed inside New York City in multinational elsewhere that should have had no access to a numerical system, to a telecommunications system, to a gas system. It's like they were buying up monopoly pieces that nobody offered them. Usually that's called stealing. Or stealing an advantage or taking advantage of the public. And I thought that there were laws to protect the public. I'm just confused why they're not enforceable, or why they haven't been enforced in like ripping these businesses out and eliminating these possibilities of people from entering this field. I mean, when there's small outbreaks, it's easier to squash the problem before it grows into this gigantic existential like business empire that now looks like this Goliath beast that everybody's having trouble strategically figuring how to take down, because everybody seems to be involved in it somehow or benefiting from it somehow. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken. And it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361. And my last name is Utsa. which I know is important in certain things in anthropology.